You have a powerlifting meet coming up, you have been training hard for it for the past 3 months or maybe longer. You have been dreaming exactly about how it will go. You have visualized every lift and every moment leading up to the platform. On midday, you weigh in, you warm up, you get ready, you get in the zone to hit the platform and showcase all the hard work you have put in. Maybe you are chasing a long awaited PR, maybe it's your first competition, maybe you are trying to get the qualifying total for nationals or an international meet, or maybe you are just trying to be the best. But then you hit the platform and boom, you miss your opener. What do you do now? Today's video we're going to go over the best meet strategy anyone can make in a powerlifting meet for a competition in order for you to have the best possible outcome. I have been coaching and competing in powerlifting for over 10 years, and this is probably the biggest lesson or the best strategy when it comes to powerlifting meets. This strategy is a 3-step process. We will go into detail and it will ensure that you have the best day possible on the platform and that you basically do the right decisions to get the best possible outcome. So let's get into it. When it comes to powerlifting meet, you basically have 3 attempts per lift and you have 1 attempt after each lift to give in your next attempt. That means you have a very limited time to make decisions, and that can either turn your meet upside down or give you the best possible outcome. If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. So the first step into the best powerlifting meet strategy that can make you hit your dream total starts before even heading into the meet. But first, make sure you drop a like and subscribe because it helps our channel grow and put out more content. The first step into having the best meet possible is to identify your primary goals. This has to be done prior to a meet, and you have to head into a meet with specific goals you want to hit. Your primary goal will identify how much risk you are willing to take, and sometimes, of course, goals change in a meet, so you'll have to set a primary goal and some additional goals you want to hit in the order of importance. Having a primary goal and having also additional goals will make sure that even if you miss your primary goal, you can switch targets and make your decisions efficiently. And not every goal has the same amount of risk tolerance, meaning for some goals you have to risk less than other goals. Some examples would be competition practice, meaning powerlifting meets are a skill like everything else, and powerlifting meets are very different than training. So it's a skill you have to improve, and to improve it you have to compete more. So if your goal is competition practice, you don't really have to risk much. You just have to go in, make sure that you are doing everything correctly, following the commands, timing your warm-ups correctly, your nutrition, your hydration during the meet. You have to focus on all these little things to get the skill of competing right. The total amount of the weight on the bar is not as important. It would be good to get more weight on the bar, but that's not the goal. So you have to take attempts that you are comfortable with and make sure you get every part of the process correct. Another goal you may have is to have fun. Usually having fun involves a little bit more risk, because if you want to have fun, you might get a little bit too overhyped and you might load up the bar with a little bit more weight. Usually, if your goal is to have fun, you don't want to risk too much. Risk a little bit, have fun, take your lifts on the platform, but don't overdo it and just enjoy the day. The next goal would be this, one of the most common ones, to hit a PR, hit a new total PR. This allows you to have a little bit of risk. You don't want to risk too much. For example, if you want to have the best day possible, you don't want to go to hit the exact PR of the day. I always like to say it's better to leave 2.5 kilos in the tank than risking 10 kilos of total. So this is also a goal that involves a little bit of risk, but not too much, because at the end of the day, if you miss your thirds and you miss your PRs, you won't be able to hit this goal. The next goal is for more advanced lifters, and that would be to test new protocols during the meet, trying a new diet, trying a new weight cut method, changing up your attempts. All these things, you can go into a meet and test them out. You will have a little bit risk involved because you won't know what the outcome will be, but you don't want to risk too much on the platform and maybe risk an injury or maybe risk bombing out. You want to have a little bit of risk to see if the things you are doing make sense, but not go way too light that you don't know if they're effective enough, or going too heavy that you will bomb out. Then another goal some athletes might have is going 9 for 9. Usually it's a nice strategy if you want to get the biggest total possible. It involves a little bit of risk. going close to your limits but not too close. You want to have 9 for 9 good lifts, following all commands, putting safe attempts, putting safe bets on the platform, and hitting the weights successfully with a little bit of room left. Your goal is to get the highest total possible, meaning you won't risk too much in your thirds or your openers to get that. The last two goals some might have involve a little bit more risk because a lot more is at stake, and also your competition is involved and they might be pushing you. One is going for a qualifying total or a record. It involves more or less risk, and not all specific target totals or single lifts attempts have the same level of risk. But usually for these types of goals, you want to risk a little bit more. You want to get as close as possible. So you'll definitely have to risk more to qualify, and especially if you are not as close as you want to be. And the next one, it involves the most risks possible. If you want first place in a competition, if you are going for a single lift medal at an international meet, this involves the biggest risk because let's say you're at an international meet and all athletes are very close with 2.5 kilos difference on total. The only difference is who is lightest on body weight, and your goal is to get a medal. You want to risk as much as possible because you don't know how often you will have the chance to hit the medal at these types of competitions. So you go all in and you either win or you go home. This involves the biggest risk, and most of the time is worth risking it. You can go into some more complex strategies of securing a lower target than heading all in for the first place, but we won't go into that much detail today. I just want to take a short break and tell you that if you have trouble with your technique and you want to improve it, we offer a free lift review on your technique. You can follow the link in the description below and you can apply for any lift of your choice, and we will reply to you as soon as possible and give you our opinion on what you have to improve your lift to get stronger. After you have identified your primary goal, the next step will be to identify your base risk. Why you have missed an attempt. You can miss an attempt for various reasons. Some reasons are less risky than others. We have narrowed it down to 6 categories involving various levels of risk. The first one would be missing the judge's signals or commands. This one involves the lowest risk because if you have trained up to standards, we have trained with commands before, this is an easy fix. You just have to head on the platform and follow the judge's commands. Sometimes you can go for a small jump depending on what your goal is, like we said on the primary goal, but usually missing the judge's commands is nothing difficult to fix. Then, something that involves a little bit more risk, if you are going to go up in weight or stay at the same weight, is missing a lift on technical errors, like a misgroove or a mental issue. This involves a little bit more risk. If you're an advanced lifter and you know what you did wrong and you can fix it, it involves a little bit more risk. If you can't get your technique right, you're a beginner, you're very inconsistent with your technique, a little bit more risk is involved. But in general, it's a little bit of lower risk, and if you know how to fix it, it's not as dramatic, and you just have to focus on the things you have to focus. Now, lifting not to standard is usually involved in higher risk because if you spend your whole block training with high squats, short poses, not locking out your deadlifts on the platform, depth will not be there on midday, and not being able to follow competition standards is usually a higher risk factor. So retaking your attempts and trying to get the same weight is the smartest way to go here. Also because if you have learned to squat higher and you manage to get depth, for example, you will either get brought out of position or you didn't build your strength into that part of the movement. So making a jump and retaking an attempt more depth will be significantly harder than taking a heavier attempt with the same depth. Now, the last three involve the highest risk possible, and the first one is opening too heavy. If you open too heavy, you have to retake. There's no other way. It's a one-way street. Another one is getting injured during an attempt, or getting re-injured, or tweaking something, depending on the type of injury. And if it's not stable, meaning if you increase the weight, it's getting worse and worse. This involves the most risk possible, so you will have to retake your attempts or even drop out of the meet. Just remember that the meet you are competing in will probably not be your last meet, so it's not worth risking everything just for a meet. So pulling out of the meet is sometimes the best decision if you get injured. And now, for the deadlift only, having a grip fail, usually this means you won't be able to recover. and going heavier in weight almost always 99% of the time does not work, so retaking the attempts is the only way to go here. Now that we have covered the base risk, then we have step 3, which is other factors that involve additional risk. So we have listed 8 factors that add additional risk to your decision making. The first one is consistency with standards. How often have your lifts been meeting competition standards during your prep? Were you very consistent and always to standard? Were you mostly consistent and you had some reps that were not as good? And were you inconsistent where many or all lifts of your prep were not to standard? This will change the risk, going from no risk to high risk. And like I said, depth won't be there on midday, and you're just risking a lot if you don't train to standards. The second one is expected performance based on your prep. How has your training numbers been trending during the last weeks of the prep? If it was as expected or as planned, you have a stable performance, there is no risk involved. If you have some bad weeks, but mostly solid, and you expect a rebound after the taper, then there is a little bit of risk. If you have a clear performance drop and you are not sure if you're going to recover after the taper, then there is more risk involved. So you want to make your strategy a little bit on the safer side and decide on attempts that are a little bit on the safer side so that you are in the clear. The third one is the weight cut impact. Even if you had the best meet possible, having a weight cut might affect you, depending on how hard you cut weight, what method you used, and how much percentage of your body weight you have dropped in weight. If your weight cut was smooth, you have experience with it, and you have been feeling strong, then there is a little bit of risk. If you feel slight fatigued after your weight cut, then there is a little bit more risk involved. And if you did an aggressive cut and you had to drop a lot on body weight and you feel flat, you feel you don't have energy, then there is a lot of risk involved in either getting injured or not bringing the best performance possible on the platform. So you want to open your meet with safer attempts just to make sure that everything is okay before you move on and push on your third attempts. Number 4, your mental state and your psychological readiness. What's your mental state on competition day? Some people might have trouble concentrating. Something might have happened in your daily life that brought you out of focus. Or maybe you're just on point and you feel strong and you feel mentally ready. If you are calm and confident, there is no risk involved. If you have mild nerves or hype, but you are focused, there is just a little bit of risk in messing up. If you're anxious and you're second guessing yourself, the risk increases. And if you are panicking and you're highly unsettled, there's a very big chance that you're going to f up your technique or something else during the meet. So taking safer attempts so you can focus, or taking attempts that you are comfortable with, will ensure that you are risking less and having more chance for success. Number 5 is equipment or platform issues. If you have issues getting used to the competition equipment, or if there are issues like the bench pad or the carpet on the platform, it will change the level of risk and how much you can risk when making your decisions. If the setup is familiar, you have trained on it before, you have no issues, then there is no risk involved. If you have minor issues that can be readjusted, like rack height, then there is a little bit of risk involved, but you can fix it in your next attempts. But if you have major setup problems, like you can't get used to the bench, you're sleeping, you cannot get your technique right, you're sleeping on the carpet, you can't get used to the rack, then you have more risk involved, and you want to usually risk less when making your decisions on what attempts you will take. Number 6 is in pain status. What's your physical condition going into the meet? If you are injury and pain-free, there is no risk. If there are minor irritations but they are manageable, there is a little bit of risk. If you have chronic issues and risk of flare-ups, then the risk is higher, and you want to watch out during the meet, maybe taking safer attempts. If you have pain that hinders performance, or you're not able to do your technique efficiently and you're risking to get more injured, then the risk is very high. Number 7 is your energy levels and recovery. If you are fully rested and you slept well, then there is no risk involved. If you're slightly fatigued but it's manageable, then you're okay. There's a little bit of risk, but not too much. If you're under-recovered, either due to lack of sleep or lack of nutrition, then the risk is higher. If you are very tired for any type of reason, then the risk increases dramatically because you cannot focus, you cannot get the performance you want, so you want to take safer attempts on the platform. And finally, the last factor for going for a medal, for going for a podium, for going for the win, is your relative strength to your goal. If you have more than enough strength to hit your goals or win or get a qualifying total or a single lift medal, then There is no risk involved. You can take safe attempts and secure the goal you want. If you are just strong enough and the margin is thin, and you are playing with every kilo on the bar just to hit that goal, there is, of course, more risk involved in that. And you want to be very careful when selecting the weight, sometimes even risking more to hit your goal. And finally, something that involves a big risk is not being strong enough for your goals, but you might have a chance when somebody else messes up. This involves very high risk. You can risk more doing this, and it doesn't happen often. It's not that often that someone messes up and leaves the medal or the podium open. So you have to risk it all, and you will go all in. You might win, or you might just go home empty-handed. Now, what you could take from all of this is we could basically make very complex formulas, and you can put in everything in the formula and make your decisions, but this is not the point. We just want to give you the type of thinking that you need to be able to make the best decisions and the best strategy possible for your meet. Like I said, because you have only 1 minute after each attempt, you have to make your decisions very fast, and those decisions will either give you the perfect meet or turn your meet upside down and make you fail completely. So you need to learn how to make your decisions fast and make the correct decisions. If you learn how to think correctly and weigh the risk and reward ratio, you will be able to hit the 900 kilo PR or whatever goal you have set your mind to. If you need help with your technique, you can check out the free lift review in the description. If you're looking for a coach to get stronger and you're serious about training, you can check out our coaching link in the description, and you can check out this video for more powerlifting content. See you on the next one.